the day of the Freedom Run road race. I got some comments that I should be bringing intros back for USAC races, so here we are. So I'll run through what I do for race prep for a Cat 4 race, road race, which is usually about an hour and a half long. Last night I had just simple pasta, red sauce, and then some chicken for protein. Day of the race, I am up 3 hours before the race start, and I'm going to make my morning latte with oat milk, and I'm going to make some oatmeal. And then race nutrition for today, I've got 2 bottles with 60 grams of carbs each. All right, race strategy for today. There is a 90-second to 2-minute all-out climb on this course. And that's really the only big feature. The plan is to be near the front or even on the front so that I can either set my own pace or be able to jump on attacks if they go. I haven't been feeling fantastic. I took a bit too long of a recovery. I was on a little vacation and my legs felt a little dead coming back, and so we'll see how I do, but either way it's gonna be fun. And if I'm not in peak condition for this, it just means that I will probably be peaking again for Intelligentsia then, so we'll see. But thanks for tuning in, and I'm gonna drink my coffee, eat my oatmeal, and I will see you guys at the race. One last thing, big announcement. I actually just became an Athletic Brewing ambassador. It's a non-alcoholic beer. I started drinking these a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, because I've been getting more serious about training and everything, and weight loss was a big part of my journey. With this, I've lost about 90 pounds. So I started drinking this as a way to not have to worry about the calories, and honestly just feeling like crap the day after I drank. So the reason I bring it up is because I usually have a few of these with me after a race. If the race goes well, I like to hang out and drink a beer with a friend. So if you have never tried, come say hi, and usually I've got a few extras, so you can try it out in the parking lot after the race. But yeah, feel free to come say hi and ask if I've got an extra, and happy to share.
All right, welcome back to the channel. It's the Bald Bearded Bicyclist. I got Andy waving in the background here. So there were 2 major crashes in this race, and they played a big role. I didn't want to show the crashes. Well, I caught one crash on camera. I didn't want to show it in the intro because honestly, it was a pretty nasty crash, and somebody got hurt, and I don't want to really glamorize the crashing just to get the views, the likes, but it is a part of racing, and I will show the crash in the context of the race. So this video is taking place starting the second time, right after the second time up the hill. So the crash happened right at the start-finish line at the end of the first lap going into the second lap, and took out a few riders, namely one of the strongest riders of the day, Drew Scott, who was probably a favorite for today. But the first lap, Drew and Jacob from Pursuit got off the front on the hill. I actually tried to bridge to them and set my all-time 5-minute power. I ended up getting close. I got a nice gap on the field, but they were holding a pace that I wasn't really quite gaining on them, and the pack started gaining on me, and so I cut it before I completely blew myself up. I wanted to save some for the rest of the race, but it would have maybe been interesting if I had made it up to them with myself having some teammates, Drew having some teammates. It could have been a good mix, but that was maybe a match I should have saved there in the first lap. I'm going to throw up my full race power, just for reference. I'm currently 170 or 171 pounds, which is 77, 78 kilograms. I don't mind sharing this stuff. When I first started riding and racing, I was always curious what kind of power it takes to be near the front and really be in control, or at least mixing it up in the race, because I felt like I just didn't have that power. As you see, Andy Rusto does a good attack here. He was really active in today's race. After Drew was out, the main guys that were mixing it up were Jacob from Pursuit was doing a lot of work on the front. Andy had a few really nice attacks. Zach Braun, actually when this video started, Zach Braun was a little bit off the front. He attacked hard pretty much every time we went up the hill. Tony, who's in front of me, he's a strong rider that I've raced with before. So, there were a few other people who made a couple of attacks and got off the front, and but the pack just was able, they were just solo riders, and the pack was able to bring them back. So the downhill here was always a nice little section for me, and I would always kind of find myself mid-pack, and then we'd hit this, and then I'd shoot to the front. And I really, as well as like trying to get on the front for the climb, I was conscious of trying to get near the front for the sharp turn. You can see in the map in the right hand corner that there's a much more than 90-degree turn, and being able to just take your own line through that and be near the front to not have to surge to get back on people's wheels was really helpful. I kind of had that, I knew that people don't really get away there, but it can be a wasted match. But for whatever reason, I still, the first lap, wasted a match and went with an attack there, and didn't really follow my own advice or strategy. There goes Andy again. Again, you could tell he's just ready to go today and really wants to mix it up and keep people working. He was attacking, or at least pushing to get towards the front for that turn every lap as well. I think, he's raced this course before and was also aware that it could at least hurt you if you weren't near the front for that turn. I'm going to skip around a lot because while we did keep a fast race, there not a ton happened other than again, the hill was the major feature, the turn, and we got a couple of little breaks that didn't last too long, but people were keeping it hard. We averaged almost 25 miles per hour. Again, we did 5 laps, and those hills definitely hurt every time. I think I was averaging 350 to 450 on those hills, which ranged, honestly, depending on when people started bringing up the pace, anywhere between 2 minutes and I think almost 4 minutes on going into the third lap. People put on the power way earlier and brought it up through to the top, so that the hill actually didn't feel quite as hard, but the power was much higher for longer, so a bit more of a sustained sting. So that's how, depending on your power profile, if you want to if you've got a longer engine, longer efforts in your legs, then you can get on the front, set that pace early. And if people are anticipating only a 90-second climb, you turn it into a 5-minute climb. So this is that turn. I'll just show you. Again, it's really wide, considering how sharp it is. So it's really not too bad. You can almost pedal through, but people always do pick it up. The front, does that mainly just to, maybe steal a couple of matches from people who get a little nervous there, but it never really does break away because there's downhill here. I mean, it's not really downhill, but you could see it's negative 1.5, little, just doesn't, it gives people a chance to catch back on. So it's hard for people to break away there. Jumping ahead to right at the end of that lap. So we're starting the third lap, and this is where I was talking about people actually, whoever was on the front, I think it was Jacob, Mark, maybe Andy, might have been up there, Zach. We got Alessandro in front of me here. They pick up the pace, and they're pushing it hard right from the start finish. So we had a good section there of around 330, 400. Maybe they were just picking up the pace for the fans on the start finish line. I don't know. They kind of stopped for a second, but then Jacob kind of looks back and then decides he wants to put the power back on again. And things were strung out, and now they are getting strung out again. Over 400 watts, and it bounces around a little bit. He gets off the front, and I think people are deciding whether they want to keep that pace or not. But then Zach pulls through, brings the power back up. And it really, this is the one I was talking about. I think it really turned this effort into close to a 4-minute with the climb. I know you're seeing a little bit of lower power here as people are deciding what to do, how to get organized, and where exactly people on the front are gonna start picking up the pace. Again, I always try to get near the front before this hill. I mentioned that in my strategy, and this was probably actually the furthest back I started on any of the hills, but I can see, we've got a lot of the strong guys that I was looking for all on the left side here, so I figured that this is the side that's going to move up. Alessandro and Jacob here are probably the two strongest climbers in this group, so I'm comfortable being behind them and them having an opening, because I know I'm not gonna get caught behind. They did accelerate a little too hard for me, and so I didn't really want to spike over 600, which now I'm finding myself over 600 anyways, but I know Mark's strong, so I figured I would stay near him. Although I wanted to go around him here because I saw this gap starting to open, and I am working. So yeah, I ended up pushing pretty hard on this one. And you can see just how long you really have to keep on the power after you crest that climb. No, I mean, I'm not pushing 600 anymore, but I'm still spiking up to over 400. I'm not even quite on the wheel here. 300, and then about here where it starts to dip down a little bit, you can finally carry that speed. And then everybody will slow down and set up for the turn. But looking back in the back camera, things are majorly split right now, and I think a lot of times we would get over that hill and be so gassed that we weren't really looking back to see what the situation was on the rest of the field. But we really should have been pushing it as hard as we could right now. I mean, we're going for sure. But this could have been an opportunity to get a lot better of a break airway. You can see it's pretty split there. I mean, it wouldn't have quite been a breakaway, but a good split in the field. And we must have given up here because we're still moving. I'd be some surprised that people caught on. 30 miles per hour almost. And I think this is it. I pulled through, and I think this is where no one was on my wheel. And I flicked my elbow, and I looked around, and I was like, what the hell is happening? So had people stayed on my wheel and really pushed through that, and now we're losing. We're down to 27 miles per hour, 26. People just gave up. But that was definitely an opportunity for a big split in the field, and for whatever reason, people didn't want to keep pushing that pace, which sucks because we would have had a much smaller bunch sprint at the end. But apparently, people weren't interested in that. So I'm still rolling a little bit to see if people want to see if we can break away, but then I look and everyone's pretty much back together, and so I ease off. All right, fourth lap. We are about to hit Gothic Hill again. We got a couple of riders on the right from the women's field there. So Zach's on the front again. Well, actually, he's not on the front. He's near the front. Jacob's on the front, but Zach takes the front and sets the pace, a pace nobody else really wants to follow. This is why he was able to kind of get away from the group every lap, but I think it was hurting him a little bit, maybe because he would go solo every time. If somebody like Jacob or one of the other strong guys was able to get with him every lap, and they really committed to it, they might have had a chance to get away, but it would pretty much come back together at the top. Again, we really could have pushed it on that last lap when everything got strung out to get a bit of a smaller group. That was probably my best opportunity if we had whittled it down a bit. But, being the fourth lap, people are starting to feel it now, and can start the bottom of the hill a little bit stronger than we finish at the top after doing this hill multiple times. So everything's back together. I got teammate Todd pulling through all the top, so trying to keep things moving. And then we're actually down on the downhill because nothing really happened at the top there, and you can just get to appreciate how a bigger guy like myself can fly to the front without doing any work here. 44 miles per hour, and just zip past these guys. It's my favorite part of the course, for sure. And then if you look in the back camera, see Jacob give a little wave. Mark's giving a little nice point. Everybody's checking out the camera. Happy to provide some enjoyment during the race. Very shortly after, we have a strong attack from this rider in the blue. He's newer to these races. I haven't seen him around here, but he was really strong. And Mark kind of gets on the front, sets a really strong pace. I get in line, and I think we took some turns, and we just kind of slowly reeled them back. But there were a few nice solo attacks that it's a tough thing on this course to get away with a big group. I think we had 31 people registered today. I don't know if they all showed up, but I think they did. So I do a pull, trying to bring him back, and then I think I flicked my elbow around here, and I realized nobody was behind me, which was annoying. But the group will reel him back anyways. Like I said, it's hard to get away on a group like this if you're not on the hill and a very good climber. Jumping ahead just after the sharp turn, Andy looks back and does a little attack. Zach follows. We got Todd was going to jump across. He kind of stops, but we got some strong guys who fill in the gaps there. It gets pretty strung out, but because there were a number of guys that filled in, that one didn't really get away. So a little pace line had formed, and there were some strong guys on the front, and Jacob and John, the true path rider in the orange there, it kind of just rolled off the front and created a big gap. I just decided to close this because they're two strong riders, and had they noticed that they were getting a gap, they very well could have turned it on. I could see those guys trying to do a late breakaway, going into the last lap here. So just to be safe, decided to close that up, and the rest of the group is not far behind. So we're approaching the last time up the hill, and Todd's on the front. He's a teammate, and he kind of starts rolling off the front. So I kind of take the front of the group and start soft pedaling, and I'm not sure if he is intending to try to get a bit of a gap here, but I do my best to let him. So he's moving a little bit further off, and maybe he just wants to get a bit of a head start on the hill, which is fine too, and smart, because then you can always filter back through the group. Makes it a lot easier if you're on the front. But these guys get near the bottom of the hill and start picking up the pace. I mean, we haven't even hit the hill yet, all of a sudden we're doing 400 watts. Again, Zach kind of leading the charge on the pace on the hill here, and Jacob too. So they're strong guys, and that is kind of dangerous. I figured with Todd being up there, he could maybe grab onto one of their wheels, and maybe they would get in a break, but he's kind of filtering back here, and Zach does get a gap, but again, he's solo, and these guys are all working hard to get back up to him. So I'm just trying to get on one of their wheels so I don't get gapped. But this hill is hurting the fifth time up, and hitting 400s, 500s. But I know that I'm close enough here to not get dropped, so that's all I'm worried about. Don't want to blow up, but just stay close enough that I don't have to worry about trying to make up ground. Heart rate's at 175. I think that's pretty much the highest it got all race. But things ease up actually a little bit earlier than they have on past times up that hill, and that's really the difference of when the group becomes really split. It's keeping that power going to the stop sign and then after the turn. I mean, it's strung out for sure, but people already kind of were able to catch their breath at the top of that hill, and that's what will allow them to accelerate back after the turn, and I'll bring it back together. I mean, you got to go even when you're hurting, and that's the only way to hurt other people. So things are back together, and I think everybody kind of realized, all right, that's the last time up the hill. this race is a bunch sprint, and it's a big bunch sprint. And I know that we were all a little bit mentally messed up from the first crash, and that played a big part in this race. That whole second lap, people kept talking about the crash. There was like this crazy scream that happened when the crash happened, and we were all thinking, you know, somebody had gotten horribly hurt. And I personally know, until we came around the start finish the next time, there were a couple people that I was really worried about, and luckily, you know, I saw them on the sidelines walking, and knew that they were okay, so that eased my mind a little bit. But you know, right before the video started and we were going into that hill for the second time, I kind of yelled at people and said, you know, let's refocus, make sure that our heads are in this, we're still racing, let's not cause another accident because we're not focused here. You know, hopefully I'm not trying to piss people off. I'm just trying to get people to refocus. I know myself, I was in a mentally weird place, so that kind of played into, for me, the rest of this race. I was a little bit worried already about a bunch sprint, just knowing that people's heads were kind of in a funky place, and it's tough. It's a mental and physical sport, probably much more mental than people give it credit for. All right, jumping ahead a bit, we've got a Nalgene rider going up the right side, and he doesn't put in like a crazy attack, but he gets to the front and he brings the pace up, and things get pretty strung out, and then he pulls off, and everyone kind of starts soft pedaling, and that is when his teammate Andy attacks hard. I try to call it out, but he goes for it, man, and he gets a gap. Nobody wants to close it, and you know, he's looking back. People are getting really strung out. I am in a horrible position. I was stuck on the left side and couldn't get on that, and then I just couldn't quite grab a wheel. And then in my head, I don't even really want to contest the sprint, just knowing, again, I was a little worried. So I'm just kind of staying off to the left. I'm putting in power. Tony goes, and there's touch of wheels and a big crash. This was a really scary one. I just kind of avoided it and just tried to roll in here. Mark was on the ground for a while. I hope he's doing all right. The finish, but Andy was able to hold on. He got first. Tony ended up getting second there, and Zach was able to get it in third for the podium. But just a mentally difficult race, and so scary to have that stuff happen. Fortunately, it's a part of racing, but sometimes when the beginning of the race is just scary like that, it's just a kind of a day to try to keep safe and not really contest the sprint, and that's where my head was at. And I hope everybody heals up quick. But unfortunately, a difficult part of our sport. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe. I will be headed to Intelligentsia. That's in a couple weeks now. So subscribe so you'll be able to catch that action. I'm planning on racing, I believe, Monday through Friday. I might skip one race just to give myself a break and explore Chicago a little bit. But I'll also put together a little vlog of the whole trip. So like, subscribe, and comment below if you've got any tips. And hope to see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.